Fred Rogers went beyond TV neighbor love. He fought. Burger King advertised burgers with a fictional Mr. Rodney in 1984. Fred called once. The ad vanished overnight. He wasn't simply furious when the KKKK utilized his voice for racist child messaging. Took legal action. One line even he wouldn't cross. Fred acted when producers pressured him to capitulate. Not expected. Get the complete story. Fred Rogers was born in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, on March 20th, 1928. His family was rich. He lived in a big brick house with all a child could want with his businessman father. Toys, books, music. Fred felt unlucky. He was mostly indoors due to health issues. The other kids played outside, but Fred watched from the window. Despite his luxury, he felt alone. That loneliness formed him. His heart could feel others' emotions. He later helped children feel seen and cherished with that emotion. Fred was sick often as a kid. Asthma kept him home for weeks. His mother tried to help. She knitted puppets and played piano with him, but days were long and loneliness persisted. He gained weight and was shy. He spoke little in class. He watched people but had few pals. He saw their pain, delight, and concerns. That unassuming skill helped him communicate with millions of children. At 11, Fred experienced something he never forgot. His neighborhood boys called him Fat Freddy. Yelling and laughing, they chased him 11 blocks one day. Freddy was scared. He was exhausted, humiliated, and hurt. That moment scarred. It also gave him purpose. He later discussed bullying on his show. As a survivor, not a teacher. He taught them to cope with hardship, be kind, and stand up for themselves. One individual made young Fred feel absolutely adored. Grandfather Fred McFeely. Every Sunday, Fred visited his grandfather's farm. He felt free there. He ran in the fields, explored nature, and was himself. "Freddie, you make my day special just by being you," his grandfather said. He never forgot their words. They supported him when he felt invisible. Later, he named a character on his show Mr. McFeely after the man who made him feel special for being. High school altered. Fred arrived at Latrobe High as a timid, overweight, bullied boy. After contacting him, student Jim Stumbaugh became his friend. Fred emerged from his shell thanks to friendship. Joining school activities revealed his leadership potential. Fred was student council president his senior year. He did music, theater, and public speaking. He lost weight, gained confidence, and found self-belief. That trip, from timid youngster to leader, taught him the power of love and camaraderie. Fred attended Dartmouth in 1946, but went to Rollins College in Florida after a year. That choice altered everything. At Rollins, Fred found music. He produced nearly 200 pieces after extensive study. He earned a magna cum laude in 1951 in music composition. His senior thesis was Piano Sonata. Music left the classroom. His show would later win over kids. His soothing music helped kids grasp emotions, fears, and love. Fred saw his first TV when he visited home that year. His show had slapstick, pies, and faces. He didn't laugh. He was alarmed. Could be lovely, he thought. Why waste it? The moment hit him hard. It was more than a thought, a life-changing realization. Right then, he decided to enter television to serve children, not become famous. One black-and-white screen showed him media's promise. Fred left for New York City in 1951 and joined NBC. He worked behind the scenes on Your Hit Parade and The Voice of Firestone. His duties included props, stage changes, and live production. Over 1,000 live shows were produced weekly by NBC. Fred learned a lot despite the chaos. It didn't feel right. He witnessed sponsors and money rule everything. He disliked the noise, advertisements, and heartlessness. His decision was simple after that event. He wasn't interested in commercial TV. Fred left that world in 1953. Ratings weren't his goal. He wished to help kids grow. He attended a Pittsburgh seminary and studied child development with Dr. Margaret McFarland. Faith wasn't his only study. He was learning about kids, emotions, and meaningful communication. The path was peculiar. People mostly choose one thing. He picked three: psychology, spirituality, media. Later, that mix made his show unique on TV. Fred returned to Pittsburgh that year to work on WQED, the first community-funded educational TV station in the U.S. The station debuted from a restored home in 1954. They had tremendous plans but little money and people. Co-producer and sole puppeteer at WQED, and played organ live. This wasn't a lavish production. Fred worked silently behind the scenes to create magic. His puppet family included Daniel Striped Tiger, King Friday the 13th, Queen Sarah Saturday, X the Owl, Henrietta Pussycat, and Lady Elaine Fairchild. He named many after his wife, co-workers, and friends. The modest show was meant to introduce short children's flicks. It grew bigger under Rogers. He created complete stories and gave each puppet a personality. The result? The 1955 Sylvania Award for Best Locally Produced Children's Show went to Children's Corner. It aired nationally on NBC. Yet Fred didn't want attention. He let puppets and music speak. Rogers also did something most wouldn't: attending seminary. He attended Pittsburgh Theological Seminary in 1955 while working full-time at WQED. His day work continued. Classes were packed into his lunch breaks. This double life lasted 8 years. He ran between the studio and the seminary without changing, sometimes in his work clothes. In addition, he and co-host Josie Carey performed monthly in New York. He continued his studies. Preaching wasn't his goal. He didn't want pulpit. Television should raise children's hearts and minds, he said. He didn't join a church after graduating in 1963. Stayed in studio. That year, something extraordinary happened. Fred Rogers became a Presbyterian preacher to assist children through television. It was a unique ordination. That he didn't need 4 walls and pews was noticed by the church. Camera in hand. He reached millions with that camera. His songs, puppet shows, and moments conveyed love, acceptance, and emotional honesty. Most people forget a turning point. Rogers visited Canada in 1963. Mr. Rogers, a 15-minute show with 337 episodes, was created at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. First appeared on camera. He had worked behind the scenes until CBC executive Fred Rainsbury urged him to shine. It was hard. Rogers was bashful and uncertain, but Canada changed everything. Developed his soft manner, spoke directly to youngsters, and started developing the pretend neighborhood. Early Canadian shows shaped the calm, kind Mr. Rogers the world would know. In 1966, Fred Rogers returned to Pittsburgh with something spectacular. A few years after creating an early version of his children's show in Canada, he bought the rights and started again at WQED, a local public TV station. He combined elements of his neighborhood of make-believe with new ideas that centered on real-life experiences. It broadcast only in Pittsburgh until the Sears Roebuck Foundation funded it. That changed everything. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood went countrywide on net, subsequently PBS, on February 19, 1968. Not just another kids' show. Back then, most kids' TV was loud, rapid, and slapstick, but Rogers did the reverse. He slowed down. He made the space safe and quiet. That humble, small performance became famous by the early 1970s. It aired approximately 1,000 programs over 30 years. But the figures alone don't explain everything. Rogers set the tone every day by starting the show. He entered, sung his theme song, then changed into a cardigan and sneakers. It became routine and intentional. He did it for kid comfort. Even the sweaters were special. His mother knitted each one by hand until her 1981 death. Smithsonian acquired the red cardigan. Fun fact, he wore green cardigans more. That was unknown to Rogers, a red-green colorblind man. Still, changing clothes showed kids they were accepted as they were. Rogers visited Washington, D.C. on May 1, 1969, speaking before the U.S. Senate. Nixon wants to halve public TV funding from $20 million to $10 million. Rogers carefully explained why that would affect kids. His yearly presentation cost $6,000, less than 2 minutes of cartoons. He talked softly but passionately. Some of his show lyrics were quoted. John Pastore, the senator listening, was stern. He said, "Looks like you made $20 million. That moment saved more than PBS. It showed that mild voices were powerful. Rogers took another big move on the show on May 9, 1969, just days later. He brought black police officer François Clemens to soak their feet in a little pool in episode 1065. That scene may appear simple now, but public pool discrimination was genuine then. Rogers didn't teach. He demonstrated kindness. The pool was shared. A towel was shared. It stressed that everyone deserves respect. Rogers privately cleaned Clemens' feet decades later, thanking him for everything. That one episode still fights racism quietly yet powerfully. As it reached more homes, the show gained popularity. Audiences grew after going nationwide in 1968. By 1985 to 1986, it achieved 1.8 million American homes and 2.1% ratings. That was big for public TV. Rogers penned all the scripts, puppets, and almost 200 songs and 13 operas for the show. He created it from scratch, serving as host. Even after the 2001 finale, repeats continued. One of PBS's longest-running shows, Rogers didn't like children's TV's direction. Many shows seemed more intent in converting youngsters into customers than in helping them grow. He once said, that wasn't a compliment. He refused to promote toys or cereal on his show. Even Burger King's parody ad utilizing his likeness was stopped. Rogers focused on kids' emotional needs, unlike other shows that promoted products. He was distinctive, which didn't always please TV executives. Even his diet reflected his values. In the early 1970s, Rogers went vegetarian. He remarked, "I won't eat mother-made food." His kindness extended to animals as well as people. Based on diet for a small planet, he considered vegetarianism as a sign of love and respect. To all life. His show never depicted meat eating. Burgers and seafood were absent from restaurant scenes. He wrote a song against Easter chick death. He was defined by empathy. Rogers also dared something most kids' TV hosts wouldn't. He tackled tough topics. A special episode was aired 2 days after Robert F. Kennedy was slain in June 1968 to help children comprehend. The puppet Daniel Striped Tiger inquired, "What is assassination?" Rogers answered honestly. He explained it plainly. He wrote about war, death, divorce, and racism. From the first week of the show, he helped kids understand a confusing world. He thought discussing scary things made them less terrifying. His faith in emotions was important. Even rage and terror were okay, he reminded kids. He claimed mentionable things can be managed. He collaborated with child psychologists to ensure the show addressed real child problems. He went beyond saying they were special. He taught them major emotions management. He offered them tools to express themselves and made sure they knew they were loved for being themselves. Behind Fred Rogers' smooth voice and pleasant smile, things were far from tranquil. Mr. Rogers' neighborhood was filled of laughs, jokes, and surprises from 1985 to 1990. Fred was no ordinary host. He loved fun, and the crew loved taunting him. Once, he came in singing his customary melody, eager to change into sneakers. He tried, but his shoes didn't fit. They were too small. Fred sang regardless till he laughed. It was hoax. Crew member Jeff swapped sneakers. Real ones? Jeff wore them. Everyone laughed, including Fred. Fred found a nasty photo left by someone else. Fred joked instead of scolding. It was blown up into a giant poster and given to the crew member for Christmas. That was the set spirit. Fred stated he missed his playmates most after retiring in 2001. The neighborhood wasn't TV only. Real, loving, and joyful. Fred surprised in 1985. He left the set and introduced the show's musicians. Not simply background players. They played jazz professionally. Joe Nigri on guitar, Carl McVicker Jr. on bass, Bobby Ross Thorne on percussion, and Johnny Costa on keyboard. They didn't perform easy songs. Every program featured live jazz. Johnny Costa performed scriptless. Fred and the moment were his only focus. The show felt real. Fred did more than name them on camera. Each musician contributed to the magic. He showed youngsters. Fred thought kids should know who made the show exceptional, even though children's TV rarely was honest. His message was that everyone matters. Fred Rogers was a clergyman, but his show may not have revealed it. He didn't preach. No mention of God. Faith, love, kindness, listening, and patience underpinned his message. He considered his TV show a ministry. Public TV required secular content. Fred integrated his beliefs throughout every episode. He spoke compassionately about death, divorce, and racism. He honored every youngster and guest. He lived his beliefs that way. Millions felt it, even though they never saw his inner cross. People are astonished to find Fred Rogers was a lifetime Republican. That contradicts his love and accepting message. Party lines didn't matter to Fred. He cared about others. His cause was public TV. Helping the weak was his philosophy. Later, conservative media attacked him. He allegedly made kids feel special. But Fred continued. His wife, Joanne, later said Trump's principles were against Fred's. Fred might have switched parties if he lived longer. However, his deeds spoke louder than his voter registration. He demonstrated that anyone can be compassionate. Fred was close friends with Francois Clemens, who played Officer Clemens. First black man with recurrent part on American children's TV, Fred cast him in 1968. A difficult episode plagued their family-like relationship. Fred wanted Francois to hide his homosexuality. Being publicly gay could end your career then. Fred worried the program would end. His advice led Francois to marry a woman, but they divorced. Fred apologized years later. He backed Francois's partners and grew. Their friendship endured.